Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Patty Bennett, and I would like to welcome you to my weekly crafting Facebook Live series. If you are joining live on Facebook, it is Friday, July 11th. Oh, it's 7-Eleven day today. I just realized that. It's 10 a.m. Pacific time, and this is my weekly card making crafting video live on Facebook, but you might be watching a replay off of my blog or YouTube, and that is fabulous as well. If you are joining live, say hi so that I can see that you are here. And if you are watching a replay, you can say hello as well. And I try to go back and look at the comments later. We will get started live in just a moment. I'm just going to wait for the top of the hour and for everyone to find the live feed. So if you are watching a replay, just whoop, jump ahead. You won't miss a thing. Jump ahead about a minute. Good morning, Tammy. Hi, Robin. Hi, Debbie. Welcome, everyone. Please say hi if you're joining live so that I know that you are here with me. It says 21 other people, but I don't know who you are yet. Hello, Pauline. Hi, Susan. Hello, Hope. I am so glad that you are here. Hi, Sally. Today is one of those fun videos where you I appreciate you watching me have fun. This is one of those times where I just get to have fun. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I was using these beautiful floral dies. There's several different dies that I used from the Charming Day bundle, and I experimented with different ways of watercoloring them. I was first just trying it out with a regular traditional, a brush and a cup of water and ink, and that's what I was doing. And then I got this idea to kind of go further and use some other techniques. And I've shared these techniques with you in the past, but I know that sometimes we forget, or I have new viewers, and so it might be something that is new to you. And so we are going to review some other techniques, such as the baby wipe technique. If you've forgotten about this, you're in for a treat. And then I don't know, well, this one might be new. I used blending brushes and ink and then spritzed the watercolor die cuts. So I have lots of different things to show you today as we create with these beautiful floral dies. Good morning, Fran and Holly. Hi, Anne, Sandy, Joy, Esther, Colleen, Sally. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. I'll just quickly show you. I did create some finished cards with these watercolored die cuts, and you can see I paired it with the vase from the Kintsugi. Well, it's not called that. The actual dies are called something else. I'll find it. But I used the vase to create a couple of different cards. I also used some watercolor backgrounds that I created. These I actually created a couple years ago, and I have a little box over here of things that I create and then I don't actually turn them into cards. And so sometimes I go back and I revisit that box, and I pulled them out for these backgrounds. And then I had to do a little nod to the pinks and purples because, not everything can be strawberry slush and poppy parade and flirty flamingo and yellow because, well, I don't know why, but it just can't, right? We have to have other colors. So I did that. But I'm going to show you how I used all of these different methods to create fun watercolor pieces for these cards. Now, I will just kind of apologize in advance. You are going to see some reflections and glares from the glass mat. I always craft on this. This is always on my desk. And it's great when you're doing watercoloring, but it does give a glare, which is why you see that in my usual weekly videos, I remove this and we just work on this rubber mat. But it works so well with watercoloring, and I apologize. See, when I move this, you're going to see the reflection of my ceiling lights. So I do apologize for that, but there's just no workaround for glass not reflecting. So anyway, Debbie says, what stamp set has the beautiful happy birthday? Oh, this is one of my favorite sets. It sits right here. It's called With You in Mind. I've used it a ton in my projects. You usually see me using Thank You and Thinking of You, but I love the birthday one. I love the mixed fonts, and this is one of my favorite sets. Thank you for asking about that. So what we're going to do is just go through these 3 techniques today. The first one is using ink refills and watercolor brushes. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of watercolor brushes. I inherited some of my dad's brushes, and I've collected brushes, and I just have a few, of course, in a penguin cup, right? So I have a few that we're going to use. You can use any watercolor brush you'd like. Then we are going to revisit the baby wipe technique, and then lastly I will show you how I used blending brushes and ink pads and water spritzing. So lots of fun today. So here we go. I want to show you that the first thing I did, well, you know what, maybe I should show you what I'm using. Would that help? My goodness. So excited to get going. I forgot to show you what we're using. This is part of the July online exclusive release. It is on the first page of the PDF. You've seen this multiple times on my blog, my newsletter, my social media. And it is called the Floral Charm Suite Collection. So you can get the whole collection. You can get the bundle, the stamp set, the die, the paper, dots, and the trim. So those are all part of this. There's, I believe, is there 6 pages of products here that are new for the July release, so don't miss any of those. But we are just using the dies from this bundle today. We're not actually using the stamp set today. And I do have a whole package of beautiful cards that I've been working on with the stamp set. I will be showing you those in a future video, but today we are working with the dies, and I used this die for die cutting this piece out of watercolor paper. I used that one for the single flower. This one, I know they're kind of jumbled up, but I'm just showing you what I used. This one for this flower with the stem, and then I die cut a bunch of the greenery pieces. This one, and I also die cut this one. So those are the dies that are a standalone die that do not actually cut out the actual stamped image, and you can use them for other things other than your die cutting of your image. So that's what we're using. Okay, now that you know what we're using, sorry about that, we are going to look at what I worked on. So these are examples of using the die cut and coloring with water and re-inker. And I like to just use a clear block. So yeah, yet another thing to reflect. Sorry about that, but that's the way it goes. And then I put drops of re-inker. Well, not really drops, like that's multiple drops, right? Several, like a little puddle. Let's call it a puddle. Maybe 4-ish. Let's see. How many drops would it really be? Like 1, 2, 3 to 4 drops. So that's Lolly. And what I do a lot of times is I will set my re-inkers there if I know that I'm making a lot, so that I know exactly what to refill in that area. So that was Lolly. This is Strawberry Slush. Let's do like an orange to go with that. Gosh, did I put some of those away? I must have put them away. I did. So let's do some Timid Tiger for an orange. And then my 2 favorite greens, of course, with the lemon lime twist and the Granny Apple Green. I'm actually going to put those, let me grab a separate block. Just so that they don't mix, because that, you know, will create an icky brown if we mix up our greens and our pinks and yellows and oranges and reds and all that. So I have the lemon lime and the granny apple there. So those are the colors I'm going to use. And that's what I do to get ready for this particular technique. Debbie says, do I keep my stamps and dies separately? Yes, I do. I have blog posts on that at the top of my blog. I didn't even introduce myself. Good heavens, people. Apologies. I don't know what's with my brain today. Hello, I'm Patty Bennett. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I love to share my crafting creations with you at pattystamps.com. So to answer Debbie's question, at pattystamps.com, if you go to the top and you click my craft room, I have about, 15 posts of all different ways that I organize and store my supplies in my craft room. And you will find information about how I store my dies on Stampin' Storage magnet sheets in their pockets. And I keep all of my dies together. You can see photos of those containers and how I do that. I label them, and then I separate them by like alphabet, Christmas, florals, nature, party, baby, and so they're in sections. Now, Debbie was saying, how do I remember? Well, I always get the dies to go with the stamps. So if I have a stamp set, I know I have the die. So I don't really have to remember necessarily what I have, but I hope that helps answer your question. Let's see, was there any other? I think that was it. Okay, for questions. So back to this. So what we're going to do is pull out one of these dies, and this is just the Fluid 100 watercolor paper that Stampin' Up! Offers. You could use a different watercolor paper. I don't know if you'll get the same result because this is the paper that I use. And you can see here I've die cut out of the watercolor paper, and I just keep moving dies around and cut till the sheet is all full. But I wanted to show you what that looks like. So I have my pieces of die cut watercolor paper. What in the heck? How is there? Look, this dot was sitting there in the middle of my glass mat. No clue where that came from. Okay, so you can wet your watercolor brush and just start wetting your die cut or your paper, whatever you're coloring. You can also grab a spritzer if you have a spritzer bottle, and you can spritz. The benefit to using your watercolor brush to just wet the area that you want to work on is that I want to just work on the flowers at first with yellows and the strawberry slush and the timid tiger. If I had wet the leaves, those colors could bleed to where I want it to be green. So we're just going to wet this area here that I want to work on first. I'm going to keep 1 cup of water for my yellows, pinks, oranges, that color palette, another cup of water for my greens. And if I was going to be working with purples and pinks, I would get a 3rd cup of water. It's just so that I don't have to keep going back and forth and go to the sink and keep wetting, or not wetting, but getting new cups of water. I don't want to do that. I'm too lazy to walk through the bedroom into the bathroom. Is that pretty lazy? That's pretty lazy. But anyway, so then I'm just going to dab some yellow onto my flowers where I want them yellow. Let's go ahead. Let's just go ahead and do this flower and this flower all at once. Now I've still got a little bit of yellow cast in that water, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. If I were going into purples, I would have totally cleaned off this brush because yellow and purple make brown, and you don't want to do that. But let's just let a little bit of this yellow bleed into those two flowers. And then I am going to move over to my strawberry slush. So you can see how I've got my little palettes here. That's really what the clear block is. You could do it straight on the glass mat, and that would be perfectly fabulous as well. So you can see how that is bleeding, and that's what I want it to do. I want it to bleed into the yellow, and I want it to give me sort of some extra fun color there as it moves and bleeds. And then I'm just going to move on to some Timid Tiger and let that just kind of fill in and create yet more color. The more water, the less saturated your color will be. The less water, the more saturated your color will be. I hope I said that correct. Did I say it backwards? I hope I didn't. But that's all there is to watercoloring with a brush and reinkers. That's all you need to do. It's very quick. You get beautiful mixes of colors, and like, ta-da, there you go. I mean, there really isn't much more to say, right? It's very relaxing to me. I love doing this. And then if you want to move on to, I'm going to use my biggest brush here, move on to the greens. So I'm just going to pat some water onto where I want green. And I am going to say these leaves here, I would wait until the yellow and the orange and the strawberry slush has dried before I wet these leaves, because otherwise, if I wet those leaves, it's going to suck this orange right into the leaf. So by waiting till this is dry, then wetting those leaves, then I can tint them with my green. But over here, I'm going to go ahead and get these wet and then dip my brush into the lemon lime twist. And I am just going to randomly dab. I am not trying to fill that in solid. Then I'm going to go straight into the Granny Apple. You don't have to rinse it off because it's the same basic color. It's just like a darker shade, really. And I'm just going to dab some Granny Apple on there. Because, you know, in nature, leaves aren't all just one color, right? They have different colors to them. I'm going to see if I can be brave and just go a little bit closer up here and without touching the red. Kind of right there. I'm just going to dab right here because it's starting to bleed together. But there we go. So let me pick this up and show you. So you can kind of see how these look. So there, that's how they look with the light and the dark green. And you could keep adding color. I have found when I keep fussing with it, that's what I call it. If I just keep going and going and going, if I keep fussing, I get disappointed. I have really found that just kind of leaving it is my best bet. I can always come back. I can always add some more color. I could even use a sponge dauber or a blending brush and add more color. I can put some Wink of Stella. I can flick ink with my Stampin' Blends. Like, there's so many other things I can do, but for right now, I'm just going to leave it. And that's hard for me. That is really hard for me because I am a tinkerer. I like to keep going, but I've learned my lesson. So that's method number 1, and that is reinkers and water and a watercolor brush. So I hope, even if this is all you try, I hope that you will love this, and I hope that you will try it, because there's just no right or wrong, and there's just fun. It's just fun. So there's method number 1, and we will go on to method number 2 and 3. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like them. Do the colors that make brown always make brown? Or if you let it dry and you add the... Okay, so even if I let it dry, Debbie, and I put green on top of that, yes, it would turn into a muddy brown. Watercoloring is an opaque, you can always just see the other colors through it. It's not like an oil painting where you're putting a thick glob of paint on top. Watercolor paper is always just going to keep soaking in whatever color you put on it. So you don't want to mix the two colors that make brown. Okay, I'm just going to clean this up. But I hope you like those. I'm going to set these aside. And we are going to move on to the second technique that I wanted to show you, and that's using baby wipes. And I don't know if you... Sorry, I almost just dropped something in my lap. Hang on just one sec. I'm just going to organize myself here. I don't know if you remember this technique or not, but I learned about this technique, I don't know, a year-ish or so ago. You just take a regular old, these are just like generic dollar store baby wipes. They don't have to be anything fancy. And basically you're going to just dab your re-inker right onto a baby wipe. But since I have ink right here, I'm just going to use this. So either way, you just put re-inker onto a baby wipe, and when you swirl it onto your watercolor paper, it makes the most amazing, gorgeous, saturated, beautiful color. So we made backgrounds, I don't know, a year-ish or so ago. I have a whole video. I will link to it below in the video description. I made a bunch of beautiful backgrounds with this technique. But one day, we're riding in the car. I don't know if any of you do this, but I do this all the time to my husband. I will say, I need you to write me a note, because I always drive and he's always writing. And I always say, I need you to write me a note. And so I asked him to write me a note. Hang on, I'm just trying to, well, never mind. We'll just leave that piece. I asked him to write me a note to remind me to try the baby wipe technique on these flowers. And so here we go. I am just going to dab some of this saturated baby wipe ink onto the flowers. Okay, so there's some strawberry slush. Let's do one of these. Look, I can even pick up this ink right here. That's the beauty of the glass mat, is that you can kind of keep going with your product, and you're not, it's not wasting into the grid sheet. Now you can grab a new baby wipe, or look, I'm just going to like fold it over and use this other portion. And I'm going to pick up the yellow, and I'm just going to add some yellow onto here. I need more yellow though. So you can put it straight to your baby wipe, or you can put it onto your clear block or your glass mat. And I'm just going to dab it onto this watercolor paper. And then let's see, should I grab a new one? Look, we'll be frugal. We can keep going. Look at that. We have an empty spot here. So I'm going to pick up the Timid Tiger, and I am going to dab it on there. And I am purposefully mixing these colors. I want to mix these colors together so that I get like this totally different look. I don't want just one color, and I don't want like stripes or anything. So look at that. Super fast and easy. This is a fun technique. Let's see, a little more in here. Like that. See? Look how fun that is. And then I am going to grab a new baby wipe for green, because this is not really wet. These flowers aren't really wet. I mean, they're a little bit damp, but they're not going to pull the color like the ones that are saturated with water. Get a little bit of the darker one. And the one thing I like about this, I'm going to lift this up and show you. The one thing that's kind of cool about this baby wipe technique, and I'm not done with these yet, but I just want to show you so far. Do you see how I'm getting kind of these little spots? Because I'm doing that dabbing motion rather than like a rubbing motion. So I'm getting some texture in there with that green, and I think that's really pretty. I like that. I need a little more lime. And you do want to make sure that your baby wipes are kind of wet. This is not going to work if you have dried out baby wipes. Like, ask me how I learned that. I know, this is so fun. And I'll go back and get those little single flowers. But I just think this is really cool. I love how this gives like a really saturated, I think it's really saturated. I think it's pretty. I want to show you one more time here. I think I need some slush to do this. I want to show you one more time what I mean about that kind of textured look. I'm going to dab it here first. Okay, now I'm going to dab right onto that flower, and I want you to watch what this does. Okay, so it gave me these little like speckly, I don't know if you can see those, but it gave me like this speckled kind of texture, and I think that's fun. That's kind of hard to get with a watercolor brush and water, because it will just kind of soak in and disappear almost. But that is method number 2. I'm just going to set these over here to dry, clean this off. And then we don't need the re-inkers anymore for number 3. So for method number 3, we are going to use blending brushes and ink pads. And I would normally just take this to the sink and wash this off, but just for now, so that I don't put my hand in the middle of that, we'll just set that aside. Wipe it off with the microfiber and just set it aside. So then for this method, I'm sorry, I'm just reading your comments. Oh, thanks everybody. I love the bright colors. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad you like this. Yep, try it on the leaves. Try it. You don't have to use these dies either. Try this on anything you'd like. Any dies that you would like. Yes, it's watercolor paper. Maybe, sorry, Susie, if you, wait, somebody asked, I don't know who asked. Elaine must have asked. Yep, watercolor paper. It's the Stampin' Up Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Thank you, Tammy, for answering that. Okay, so for our third method, I am going to use blending brushes and ink pads, and then I'm going to spritz it with water. So I want to show you how fun that is. So strawberry slush, and I'm using the little blending brushes for this one because these are kind of small areas. This is peach pie, and this is daffodil delight. Let's see, any other questions? Yes, I hope that you will give it a try. Yep, Robin, I did do the freesia and Highland Heather. Yep, totally works. I think one of those, this one, I did freesia, heather, and berry burst on that one. That was one of the first ones I showed. But yeah, you can do it with any colors that you would like. And I have those colors right here, so we'll do that next as a matter of fact. But I just want to show you that you can just saturate, dab your color on the watercolor paper with your blending brushes. Again, this is a great use of your glass mat because you can just go back and you can pick up this ink that's on there. But if you were using a grid sheet, then it would soak right into the paper and you wouldn't be able to use your use this ink that's on here. So that's great for a great use of the glass mat. Okay, so then I'm going to add some peach pie. So this one is going to have a little different look than the tiger. So there's some peach pie. And then let's add some strawberry slush. It's nice and vibrant when you do this with the blending brushes. And as with any watercolor project, when you use water, when you introduce water, which is what we're going to do, we're going to spritz it with a spray bottle. It will, as it dries, it will, like fade really isn't the word I want. It soaks in and it softens. Let's say it softens. And I'll show you, after we spritz this, I'll show you one that's already dry. You can kind of see the difference. So now I'm just spritzing on there. And same with the previous ones I showed you. I'll let these dry before I do the green because I don't want to let them soak in with each other with the water. But that is going to just blend the colors even more. And I just think that is a fun way to try watercoloring with the watercolor paper, the water, but adding ink in a different way. So let me show you after they dry, they do soften and lighten a bit. So here is this method after it's dry, and you can see kind of the difference that they do soften and blend, and they aren't quite as vibrant as when you do them. So let's do a purple one. Then we're going to make a couple of cards with these pieces because I have some ideas that I want to try. Just put my dry ones aside so that I can use them later. Oops, gotta clean this off because we don't want our purples to mix into the yellows and the peach. That would be a color disaster. So let's try, what do I have here? Mambo, Petunia Pop, and Freesia. because the whole world cannot be just Patty colors, right? Well, I mean, I think it can, but you all are probably like, girl, get over it. You need to use some other colors. So let's do some freesia. Guess I should make sure that you can see that. Oh, good grief. I just put my finger in that. Heavens. Were you yelling at me? Oh, well, it's just ink. I don't even know what I was going to say. Never mind. I have no idea. Okay, Petunia Pop. And do be just, a little bit careful because obviously these are kind of fragile dies. They're only connected at little tiny points. So just be a little careful when you're adding ink. Don't rub them around too hard. I'm trying to sort of hold on to them as I do this. So freesia, Petunia Pop, and then we're going to add just a teeny bit of Mambo just for like a wow of color. This is where your color wheel might be helpful if you are wondering about complementary colors that go well together. And I have a whole video series about making projects with complementary colors and analogous colors and all the colors from the color wheel. So you can refer to those videos and playlist if you aren't sure about color combinations. So then we're going to spritz these. And by the way, this spritz bottle, I've talked about this before. This was a hair care product, and it just so happens that this particular hair care product has like the best spritzer like ever on the face of the earth. And so I just keep refilling it with water. And I really, really like how it mists and spritz. So that's what it is. But you can use a dollar store, whatever you want. So look at that. Look how that just pops. It comes out. It's beautiful. It's vibrant. And it's just a fun, easy way to add color. It makes you look like a watercolor artist. And voila, right? So Cindy asked if I could get the watercolor paper wet first and then add with the blending brush. So you can, but let me tell you what I think is probably not a super great idea. So I'll get the ink right on my blending brush. So then I'm going to put it on. So that works. It works perfectly fine. But now my brush is all wet. And I really don't want to go back onto my ink pad with all that water. So that is why I would not do it that way. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I just don't think it's a great idea to get the water onto your ink pad. So for that reason, instead of using the ink pad, let's do this. So I think you could totally do it this way. You can just grab some ink on your blending brush and then add it to your wet paper. So you can do that. Like, this is not really very saturated in color. I think by wetting it first, yeah, that's a really different look, isn't it? It's not quite the same, and that's Granny Apple, so that technically should have turned out really dark. So you could play with that, but it's not something that I would recommend as far as getting water back in your ink pad. But great question. Thank you for asking that. Susan, you're so cute. She says, you make it look easy. I have to remember to breathe when I do this. I probably do hold my breath. Oh, that's cute. Fingers on the ink pad. Yep, I just can't even believe I did that. Tammy was yelling at me. Yep, Tammy is yelling use blue. I haven't done any of these in blue, so I don't have those out yet. But I'm glad that you like these colors. Thank you. Faith says that the blending brushes are her favorite. I'm glad you like it. So glad. So let's set these aside, and I want to make a couple of completed cards with you using the pieces that are already dry that I worked on prior to today, prior to this morning's video. So if you're here just for the technique and you don't want to see the finished cards come together, no problem. I appreciate you joining me. If you want to hang out and you want to make a couple cards together, then please hang tight and let's do that. Okay, I think it's still a little tiny, there we go. It's a tiny bit wet. Now I've got it dry. Awesome, awesome. So I have pieces that have dried. Oh, and I wanted to show you kind of another couple more things. Couple more things. So these are some dry pieces. And as I mentioned, as they dry, they do, the color soaks in, they do soften a little bit. They're not as vibrant. They're still beautiful. They're still very colorful. But if you wanted more color, you can totally just take your blending brush that you were using before. This one has the strawberry slush ink, and you can just add a little more color. So that's one thing that I wanted to show you. You can just make it a little more vibrant. If you say, oh yeah, I want a couple of these to be like really deep and saturated, just go ahead and add some more color. And since it's not wet, this color is going to really show up. It's not going to soak in because I'm not going to add water to this. I am just going to let that be another darker shade. Okay, so there's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is you can take either a Stampin' Blend or your regular markers, and you can flick color. I might need one darker shade than this. This is light petunia pop. Let me get dark. I want to show you. You know how a lily tends to have little speckles? So can you see how that I added some speckles? So you could add speckles to your flowers. You can take your wink of Stella. I'm going to shake it over here so you don't get dizzy. You can take your wink of Stella and get some ink, some wink flowing. That's kind of funny. And you can flick. So if you want to have some sparkles on your images, you can flick ink on there. So lots of fun, different little extras you can do once you have your pieces kind of done, but then you can enhance them. Let's call it that. All right, now we can make the cards. So I was kind of thinking, I was playing with this idea with some embossed backgrounds. Oh, by the way, these are those some watercolor backgrounds I made years ago that I showed you in the beginning that I used for my backgrounds. So watercolor background, watercolor flowers, I thought it kind of went together. So, keep that in mind. The back side of it doesn't have to be in color. I was going to say in color, but any of the Color Family 6x6 pads that have these watercolorish looks, these would be good backgrounds because it just kind of carries that theme right? You just want to kind of carry that theme through. So that's a fun look. I just wanted to show you as an option. But I was just kind of thinking maybe trying out something like this, and the cards I showed you in the beginning, I kind of liked the die cut circle. And then, let's see. Oh, that's a really pretty combo. Do any of these flowers? That's really kind of pretty. That's a maybe. Huh. Or we could go darker. Oh, I don't know. So I'm going to set this aside and think for just a minute. But I think that might be a pretty combo. And on this one, I was sort of just thinking of like a sort of a spray of flowers. Do you see how this is embossed here? A spray of flowers and maybe just some greenery coming out here with some extra flowers. Just kind of something like that. And I guess this could have, did some extra stylish shapes, circles. Maybe if there was like a circle in here, just to sort of set. Oh, I don't know if I like that. That's a maybe. I don't know if it needs that. I don't know. It doesn't really need it. That's a maybe. That's a maybe. But anyway, just I was thinking of something like that as an option. So I wanted to kind of put a couple of things together and show you, in addition to the cards I showed you in the beginning, what I was thinking about for that. Let's see. I think maybe with these purples, I'm just thinking like white. Is there a... Or... Oh, like, look how stunning. Just like simple, super simple. Maybe a piece of, I don't know, like just, that could just be like really simple. Wow. Maybe. Just thinking here for a second. I don't know if we would want a second one. I haven't done the green yet on here. This is one I just did. Do I have another? I thought I did. Maybe I don't. This is a really bold one. If I wanted to do two. That's kind of nice. That's just really different. That's very different for me. I don't know. I don't know. Wonder. No. What else is here? What else did I die cut? No. I kind of like my first choices. What do you all think? What do you all think? Let's see. Oh, good. I'm glad you, love the one in the middle. Love those so much. Okay. Yeah, I like this too. A lot. And I'm just thinking like a white card base and just, whoa, super simple. I really like this too. I think this is going to be really nice. Maybe some extra greenery coming. That's a little top heavy. Okay, let's just do this. Let's put this one together. And I am not going to pop up the, oh wait, no, this one. I'm going to show you a trick on the middle one. I'm not going to pop up this vase, but I'm going to pop up the flowers, but I'm going to show you a little trick and tip on that one. So if we just dip here into our little bucket of scrap foam adhesive pieces, or you could totally use your dimensionals. Just going to pop some of these up. I think I kind of like that. So just a very simple, yeah, I like that. Simple look. Just very, 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 very simple. I like that. So let's set that one aside. So here's the tip I want to show you on this one. So when you are using these vases and stems, I like to use the X-Acto knife blade in my Take Your Pick tool, and I like to put a slit in the vase. See, there's a slit here. See that? So that when I assemble this, I can put the stem down inside, and it just looks, to my eye, it looks so much better. Tuck this one behind and see if I need to snip off any of those leaves. Sorry, my fingers are being super clumsy today. Come on. There we go. Something like, yeah, I kind of like that. And then what I like to do is when I have it the way I want it, I just turn it over and I secure those stems right there on the back with a piece of foam adhesive sheet so that they won't go anywhere and they won't shift around on me. And then I will just put a couple pieces on the flowers. And then we'll just let the leaves they can just kind of flop around. They can have a little bit of freedom there to just be loose. There we go. And so then, can you see that, how the stems actually tucked into the vase? I think that looks much better than having them behind. So that's just a little tip for you. And I think if I have a white base, I should, because I usually have lots of white bases. I do, but it's not stored. Let's just put it on a white base and just see how that looks. Just very, very clean and simple. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks, Robin. I'm glad you like them. Just white on white, super simple. Yep, let's just do that. Just super duper. Simple, 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 simple. And I'm not even going to put, I know, shock, I'm not even going to put a greeting or gems on this one. This one is just going to stay just totally, totally simple. What do you think? I like that. I like that. The only thing I think it needs is some sparkles of wink on the flowers. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, beautiful. Love that. Love that. And then this one, this will be kind of a different look. Just kind of playing on that garden theme. I like this flow. So I think we're going to do that. I do want to show you one thing here. These dies have all these little pieces that you can actually poke out. I made some of my cards where I poked them all out. You can see where I poked all of those out. And some of them I left all of those little pieces in. And I like it both ways. I don't really think that there is a right or wrong to this. So kind of whatever you want to do with that is totally fine. You don't have to poke them out if you don't want to. I guess the advantage, so I was just looking at this, the advantage to poking them out is that your foam is not going to show. But see, by having that hole right in the middle, I'm going to have to put smaller pieces around the perimeter here. So those were the mini dimensionals. Okay, then before I put that down, I'm going to position that because I don't want to have to try to tuck it. So I'm going to position that, and I'm just going to lift up and put a couple little dots of glue. And then we'll put this one on, and this one will be done. And then I'll show you all the cards. So, oops, right about there. And then I think, hang on, I had a little piece. I feel like I'm kind of going blind here. Like, where is that little one? Here it is. I had a smaller one, just kind of wondering about. No. Maybe. I think what I'll do is tuck that under there and put a couple little dots of glue. This glue is, whoop. I was gonna say it's empty, and then all of a sudden it was a big blob. I don't know, does that mean one more flower? Do we want one more flower up here? I think we do. It's my garden. I can make whatever I want in my garden here. I'm going to show you one thing that's bothering me and how I solved it. There is this one. Okay, so it's right here. This flower on almost every single one that I colored, it either bled the flower color into the green or it bled the green into the flower, and it bothered me. So on almost all of them, I just snipped that flower off. And I'm going to do that right here because I have a green flower and I don't want a green flower. So I'm going to snip it off. It just bothers me. That was not a good placement, in my opinion. So there we go. Oh, I think that's beautiful. But this one needs gems. Let's see. Do we want to put... These are the gems in this suite. I kind of think maybe these peach gems. Okay, well, you could just stick them to your fingers, or you can stick them to your project. No, that's too blah. That's too blah. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, maybe the strawberry slush. It's like, when in doubt, use strawberry slush gems because they're just beautiful. Okay. Oh, but the strawberry on the duckling is turning a really weird color. Darn. So maybe, yeah, maybe just the sparkleness of these clear gems. Darn, I didn't think of that. Well, that's all right. We're still going to have some pretty sparkles. Yep, some pretty sparkles. Okay, my goodness, so much fun. Let me get the cards out and then I'll see if you had questions. We have so many pieces. I've got lots of pieces to work with now. I've got lots of little cups of pre-watercolored pieces that I can use on my projects. So there's the finished ones that I've done so far. And oops, I will keep going. Oh yeah, just put them right side up. Come on, my goodness. And I will keep going and I will make more. And I will have pictures on my blog tomorrow of the finished cards. Thank you, everybody. I am glad that you enjoyed these. What embossing folder did I use on this last one? This one, let me see. I can't remember the name. Let me grab it. It's called Pressed Flowers. And I think it was an online exclusive. I don't know. It's 165614. Hopefully it's still in the online store. Hopefully. The yellow is the daffodil, the two-tone cardstock dark side of the daffodil. Thank you, Janet. I'm glad that you like that. I'm glad you like these. Let's see, who else? Any questions? I'm just trying to check and see if there were any questions. Thank you, Paulette. Thanks, Anne. Thank you, Donna. Thanks, Maggie. So I would love to know, out of the 3 watercolor techniques we did today, is anything new to you? Are you going to try one of these? Does one look easier to you? Are you like intimidated by it? Do you think you could do it? I'm just curious. Was this helpful? Did you enjoy it? I hope that you'll give me a thumbs up or a like or a comment if this was helpful to you. But I'm just curious if this was something that you think you might try now. Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Polly. Thank you, everybody. Paulette likes the vase cut open. Good. I'm glad you liked that tip. Hi, Robin. We're just ending. I hope you will watch the replay. Thank you, Sandy. Well, let me know in the comments about technique 1, 2, or 3, what you liked, and if you think you'll try it, and if you've thought about die cutting with the watercolor paper. I think it's a fun technique and really lends itself to tons of possibilities. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful, Sandy. I think the comments are like way behind right now because that was just the first comment that I saw there. But anyway, I hope that you'll try this. I hope you'll have a lot of fun with this, one of these or all 3 of these. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope that you will just like let loose, try colors, try different combinations. I hope that you'll have so much fun. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and I will see you next week.